My aunt disrespected family boundaries and refused to apologize.
But why? Why would you do that?
But can we just say sorry?
Please?
I, 36 female, am wondering if I made the right decision going no contact with my aunt, 73 female, my mom's 68 female, only sibling. This is very lengthy due to there being a lot of context, so bear with me. We shall. Almost a year ago, my grandma, 93 female, my mom and aunt's mother, fell and broke her arm while in her apartment at her senior living facility. This caused her to need to move in with my mom and aunt temporarily so they could assist her while recovering. By the way, this comes from Specialist Fox, 1988, and if you want to submit your own story, go to r/OK storytime subreddit. So, for context, the house my mom and aunt lived in is my grandma's house. My aunt moved in with my grandma and grandpa, now deceased, after filing for bankruptcy for a second time around 2011 or 2012. My mom and brother moved in when my grandparents moved into the senior living facility around 2017 because she thought my aunt would be homeless if she didn't. Turns out this wouldn't have been the case because my grandparents were paying all of my aunt's expenses, which my mom was not aware of at the time, but I digress.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she's taking advantage of your mom while she's getting everything paid for?
Yeah. Dang, man.
Suspicious. My brother moved out, eventually leaving just my mom and aunt in the house. My mom and aunt have never gotten along, even when they were little, and basically lived on opposite sides of the house with little interaction until my grandma had to stay there. They would take turns helping my grandma to the bathroom and changing clothes. My grandma has dementia and couldn't remember breaking her arm sometimes, so they were constantly having to remind her not to take off her cast or use her arm. Oh, that's tricky. They were supposed to share nighttime duty, but my mom always ended up being woken up and helping because my aunt would take sleeping pills and not hear my grandma call for help. It should have been noted that both my mom and my aunt are disabled. My aunt has fibromyalgia and my mom had thyroid cancer, diabetes, and high blood pressure, as well as constant back pain, hip pain, and a fake knee.
Wow.
A lot. The house has been in a constant decline since my grandparents moved out and looks like a hoarder house. My sister and I went in once to throw out the trash in the living room and dining room and kitchen in 2023. My aunt resisted anything we did, and my mom agreed that they needed help, but were limited in what they could do because of their health issues. It's really interesting that they clearly have like a lot of mobility issues and health issues, but are taking care of mother with dementia. Like that.
Yeah.
It seems like they need kind of someone else to step in there.
Yeah, if possible.
Yeah. It went right back to where it was over the past 2 years since then. Anyways, they went on like this, taking care of my grandma for about 4 weeks, and then my mom got seriously ill and ended up in the hospital with signs her kidneys might be failing. Oh my God. The night my mom went into the hospital, I volunteered to spend the night at the house to help my aunt take care of my grandma and figure out ways she can take care of my grandma on her own, since we didn't know how long my mom would be in the hospital. It seems like she can't even take care of herself on her own.
Yeah.
I mean, if the house looks like a hoarder's house,
Right.
I feel like both these people might need extra care.
I agree.
I did night duty and called into work the next day so I could help my aunt figure out a solution. Every single thing I suggested, from different ways to help my grandma get up from the futon, she was sleeping into different beds she could try in another room, was met with, "I can't do it, this won't work," from my aunt without even trying. I tried to suggest reaching out to nonprofits who help with these kinds of things and got resistance. At one point, we had my grandma laying down on my aunt's bed, trying to see if it was easier to get her up from it than the futon, and my grandma used her broken arm to try to push herself up. My aunt leaned over and yelled in her face about not doing that, and that if she does it again, she would tie her arm to her body.
Oh, wow.
It should be noted that the only conversation I heard before my grandma and my aunt from the moment I got there was my aunt screaming at my grandma. At that point, you need to find your grandma or if you have the funds, you gotta find your grandma some other care.
Yeah, this does not seem like the ideal situation.
I step between my aunt and grandma and with my hands raised tries to ease my aunt out of the room. I told her she shouldn't yell at her like that and that we should all separate until we calm down. My aunt started screaming that it was her room and my grandma and myself, should get out. Seeing as how my grandma's wheelchair was in the hallway and my aunt was in the doorway while my grandma was on the bed, it wouldn't have been possible for us to leave without her leaving first. I tried to calm her down and kind of ease her out by taking a small step towards her when she suddenly put her hand on the side of my neck and pushed my head to the side and down.
What? upside and down, like, whoa, get
yeah.
out of my way. That's not
Nice.
safe.
No. At this point, I placed my hands on my aunt's shoulders, guided her out of the room, and closed the door in her face and asked her to please go into the living room until she calmed down. I was shaking as I had never been pushed like that by her before. I checked on my grandma to make sure she was okay. She was and didn't understand what was going on. After a while, since my aunt had shown she wasn't willing to listen to anything I had to say, I decided I had done the best I could, took my aunt and Mimi to lunch after she was calm, made the excuse I had to get to work, and left the house. I went to visit my mom to see how she was doing. She was on the mend, and the doctors were hopeful that they would be able to get her kidneys functioning again by adjusting her meds. I wasn't going to say anything about what my aunt had done to me to my mom because she had enough to worry about. Some additional background. On top of her health scare, I have also noticed that my mom was getting depressed over the years since moving into that house. My husband and I have talked about it and were prepared to have my mom move in whenever she was ready to leave the house. While visiting with my mom, she suddenly broke down in tears and said that she couldn't go back to that house, but didn't think she had a choice because her mom needed 2 helpers. But again, like, these aren't people that, like, these are not the people that are equipped to help this grandma.
Right, but
this,
I think
mom.
the mom is, right?
The mom has thyroid cancer.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so she's like, I mean, she might have a little bit more ability, but it seems like she's also pretty affected by this.
Yeah, exactly.
I told her that she needed to make the choice that was best for her and her health, and by concentrating on her mom instead of herself, she didn't notice what her body was telling her and almost passed away. I let her know that she can move in with us. She gave it some thought and decided that was what she needed. The next day, she informed my aunt and grandma of the decision, and my aunt blew up at my mom while she was lying in her hospital bed. Jeez.
Wow.
She could be heard screaming down the hall. She called my mom selfish, blamed her as the reason my mom's marriage failed. It wasn't, trust me. And blamed her for why my aunt now yells at everyone and is so unhappy. Security almost had to be called. My mom ended up having to put herself on a list at the hospital, which meant if anyone looks to visit her, they would be told they didn't have a patient by that name. Only I and my brother were allowed to visit. She was in the hospital for about 3 days. On the day my mom was going to be discharged, I decided to let her know what happened between my aunt and myself because I was concerned about leaving my grandma alone with her. She was understandably furious with my aunt for laying a hand on me and agreed with my concerns. I suggested we let my grandma move in with me as well while we work on getting her into an assisted living. Yes, that is absolutely what needs to happen. Yes. She needs to have people who like are equipped to take care of her and know how to deal with like a patient with dementia, not an aunt who's gonna scream at her and like potentially if she's treating OP like this, since I could more easily help her than my mom or aunt could, and my mom would only have to take care of her during the day while I was at work. She was hesitant because she felt like she was already being a burden, hadn't even moved in yet, and I have a 4-year-old daughter at home I have to take care of too. I said it would be fine, and it is what we need to do to protect grandma as well. She agreed that she could do it, so after she moved in, we called my aunt to let her know what we discussed and what we would like to suggest. My aunt wouldn't hear of it. She said, Rita's yelling, that she and my mom are supposed to take care of grandma, their mom, together. And that means my mom has to live at the house 24/7 helping her. She wouldn't hear of anything else and spent the rest of the time blaming my mom for everything. My mom brought up the pushing incident and my aunt stated I pushed her first and that she has the bruises to prove it. My aunt bruises easily. Eventually, she didn't have a choice because my aunt fell 2 days after my mom moved in, broke her tailbone, and we took grandma to my house while she recovered. Everything went smoothly and we eventually got my grandma into assisted living, which I mean, sad, unfortunate that it had to happen that way, but at least your grandma is in safe hands now.
Yeah, absolutely. But oh my goodness.
Yeah, a lot had to happen. I mean, this sounds terrible.
Yeah.
My sister, 39 female, who lives 2.5 hours away, and I had to pack my grandma's apartment up ourselves. Though my brother, 33 male, did come and help once or twice when he wasn't working. My aunt wanted to be there while we were packing so she could help us decide what has to be kept, but she wouldn't actually be packing anything up, just advising. We told her no, put most of my grandma's things in storage, and packed what she would need for her room in assisted living. Flash forward to the moving day, I went over to my grandma's new room after work so that I could help move the furniture around to where she wants it and unpack her boxes. My aunt and mom were still there and my mom had done some unpacking for me. While moving furniture, my aunt asked me where the wreaths were for the door to the room. I explained that they were in storage because my sister and I didn't think it was a necessity and we had limited space in the new room. My aunt lost it. She screamed at me that it was a necessity, that I should have thought about how my grandma would feel around her neighbors if she was the only one without decorations on the door, and that's why she should have been there during the packing. She has dementia.
What?
So she's probably not going to be worried about any of this. I apologized if the choice This upset her, but we have a difference of opinion on this. I asked her if she would please stop yelling because they could hear her in the hall. She stated she didn't give a dang if they could hear her, and I needed to be more considerate of what makes a home a home. Decorations is apparently the answer instead of the family photos we did pack.
And instead of like yelling.
Yeah. Yelling certainly makes the home a great home.
Yeah, yelling is totally fine. Doesn't affect it at all. But no decorations.
What are you going to do without decorations?
Unacceptable.
I told her, okay, then she will just have to go get them from storage and turn my back to her so I could move the dresser. While my back was turned, my aunt came up to me and shoved me into the dresser I was moving.
Never turn your back. Never turn your back on these people.
My mama lost it, got into my aunt's face and told her to never put her hands on her daughter. My aunt pushed my mom out of her way. I went up to my aunt, didn't touch her, and told her I would call the cops if she ever touched my mother again. She yelled some more about random things that were apparently also my mom's faults and stormed out. My grandma, precious loony that she is, was just sitting there in her wheelchair, not even really understanding what was going on and wondering why everyone was so upset. I finished getting her settled, let her know that everything was okay and to enjoy her new digs, and took my mom home. My mom and I had several conversations about what happened during the move. She told me she didn't want to really believe me the first time I told her about the pushing, but after seeing it herself is even more upset. I talked it over with my sister as well to get her opinion on what I should do. My sister was concerned because she has somewhat similar personality to my aunt and doesn't want to be cut off from her family if we ever fight in the future. I assured her that so long as she doesn't lay hands on anyone, we can get over it. That's kind of silly. It's like the sister's like, but what if I become like our aunt?
Yeah.
What are you gonna cut me off? And Opie's like, just don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just don't push me.
Why would you think that you're gonna get physical like that in
Yeah.
the future? Just don't do that.
I
Easy
don't know.
morals.
I don't know what else to tell you. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
I had decided that once could be written off because this was an extremely stressful situation they had been in 4 weeks. But the second time, my aunt had, at the point, been living on her own, rent-free, only having to take care of herself and a dog for 3 weeks. Plenty of time to not be stressed out anymore. There was no reason I could see that a disagreement over a door decoration would result in a physical altercation. My mom and sister stated they would support my decision whatever I choose to do. I decided no contact was the way to go because I did not want my daughter to be around that. My husband and I don't even fight at home, let alone yell. We have heated discussions, but never raise our voices because we don't want her to think that's a normal thing to do. My dad was a yeller, and I remember being very terrified of his anger and didn't want to show my daughter that. Since the pushing has happened twice, I didn't want to risk it happening again, this time in front of my daughter. I decided to write a letter to my aunt explaining my memory of the two events, my observations of her attitude recently, and while growing up, she was always complaining about everything, even out loud in restaurants, so that whoever she was complaining about could hear, and my decision to cease contact. I pleaded in the letter that she talk to someone about her anger and get some help. I explained that I would be open to written correspondence by mail only if she wishes, but that was it. I blocked her on my cell once I decided on the no contact. The letter was sent about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, and I haven't heard from her since. My mom has to stay in contact with her because of my grandma, so I get updated on how she is every now and then. She's still in my grandma's house and has given my mom until spring to get the rest of her stuff out of the house. It is still my grandma's house and goes to both my mom and aunt upon her passing. My mom and I have been going over on Sundays when my aunt is at church to clean up my mom's stuff and pack what she wants to keep. We plan to call Junk King to clean up the trash once we move the stuff she's keeping due to the sheer amount of trash, but only from the room my mom stayed in and the garage because that was what my mom brought in when she moved in. The rest of the house we plan to leave alone since it's my aunt's things and trash. By the way, we'd never want you to leave us alone because you can listen to full episodes with stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search OK Storytime.
That's right.
That's right. But there is a little bit left to the story. Do you have any final thoughts?
I really like OP's thought process of not bringing this around her daughter, especially since she's so young. Like,
I mean, yeah, that's not okay behavior to bring around a child.
yeah, absolutely. So I think OP is handling it to the best of her ability. It's obviously a crappy situation, and you wish that people wouldn't act like this.
Yeah.
But you can't meet them at their level, and she's definitely not doing that. She's definitely, letting them be wild and crazy, standing up for
Away
herself
from
in the
herself.
process. Yeah, and then making sure that it's not influencing her 4-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, also like everything that I wanted to happen in terms of like getting the grandma assisted living, moving her out of the house, moving the mom out of the house. It all is all happened. So
Yeah.
I'm pleased with that.
Absolutely.
But let's finish the story off. I keep waiting to see if she will write me with an apology or something, but no luck so far. I'm not comfortable with my mom being around my aunt on her own, but I have to also stick to my decision. Thankfully, there aren't many times they have to get together, so that is a slight comfort. So am I the a-hole for going no contact? Should I give her another chance since it's been almost 6 months, even though she hasn't apologized? And that is the end of the story. No, I don't think you have to give this person another chance when she's physically pushed you multiple times and hasn't apologized. Like, that's not on you.
Absolutely, because I think it's the kind of person too that if you apologize to them, then they'll just be like, yeah, you are in the wrong because also this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make it worse. So you definitely don't need to do that.
Yeah.